Hi, all. I had a really wonderful first official book reading here in New York at The Strand. It was totally sold out, and people were even being turned away at the door. We will try to do another reading somewhere in New York for those of you who couldn't make it. It was a blast meeting so many of you. Thanks to those of you who came and asked such engaging questions. Thanks also to Christine Lee of CoinDesk, who did a fantastic job moderating. There are a few more in-person events that I'll be doing in case you want to get your book signed or just say hello. For folks in the Bay Area, on Tuesday, March 8th, I'll be doing a reading and signing at San Francisco's Commonwealth Club, moderated by The Information's Kate Clark. Doors open at 5:15 p.m., the program begins at 6 p.m., and the book signing is at 7 p.m. For people in Seattle, I'll be doing a reading and signing as part of Town Hall Seattle on March 9th at 7:30 p.m. at the Forum, moderated by Steve Scher of Town Hall Seattle. Check out the show notes to buy tickets to both of these events. And I may also be at South by Southwest on March 12th, details still TBD, and I might also be in Boston at Harvard the weekend of March 26th. No promises on either score, but I guess if you feel strongly about either one, you can tweet at me, as that might tip the scales. On April 5th, I will be in Miami doing a reading, and on April 9th, I'll be in Annapolis at the Annapolis Book Festival. Finally, on March 23rd, I'll be doing a virtual reading with Powell's Bookstore at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and Jeff Roberts, executive editor of Decrypt and author of Kings of Crypto, will be moderating. Thanks again for attending if you came to New York, and if you want to come to the San Francisco or Seattle events, you can check out the show notes for tickets. And now, on to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin, author of The Cryptopians. I started covering crypto 6 years ago, and as a senior editor at Forbes, was the first mainstream media reporter to cover cryptocurrency full-time. This is the March 8th, 2022 episode of Unchained. Buy, earn, and spend crypto on the Crypto.com app. New users can enjoy 0 credit card fees on crypto purchases in the first 30 days. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA, link in the description. This episode of Unchained is brought to you by Beefy Finance, the multi-chain yield optimizer. Beefy is the easiest way to earn more from your crypto. Deposit funds into Beefy's secure vaults to auto-compound yields across 12 blockchains. Got crypto? Choose Beefy. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking with Cross River Bank. Request your fiat on-off-ramp solution now at crossriver.com/crypto. Today's guest is Andrei Tarnovsky, founder of Chatroulette. Welcome, Andrei.
Hello.
For people who haven't read my book, it may come as a surprise that Andrei has any involvement in crypto at all. But a quick heads up for listeners who are worried about spoilers, we won't give away too much that's in the book. For those of you who have read it and want to discuss the parts that involve Andrei, I will be doing book clubs where you can discuss the book with other people who've read it, so nobody has to worry about spoilers. So Andrei, before we discuss crypto, why don't you tell us your background? How did you come to found Chatroulette?
I was a typical geek, like many kids playing with computers, but it was a pure chance that I put something together that went viral. Many projects tried to do the same, but they're not succeeding because it's a bit like lottery. And I was just on the receiving end of that luck. So made that website went viral, got a lot of attention from people, from society, from mass media, from the venture capital. That was 12 years ago. During the course of developing this project, I kind of ran into similar problems that many digital entrepreneurs are experiencing, are running into, such as working with PayPal. Kind of one of the issues with when you work with PayPal is that because like it's such a strong monopoly. You are always you're very dependent on them, and for instance, if they ask you something and they don't like the answer, you have no recourse, and they might block your account. And it's kind of funny how private company can have such a power that you actually beg them to bank you. And that's actually a pattern which I've frequently experienced, that actually people want banks to bank them, like they're begging, and the banks say no, and that's like completely twisted logic, right? It's not like free market. That's actually what I see, that people want. I mean, there is two types of people. I mean, one is of course where it's the banks are running after them, and then there is one where they're trying to get a bank that will open a bank account. And I mean, that's certainly the case for Russians today, but it's in general was always the case for anybody who wanted to do international. Well, maybe not always the case, but at least in the last 10 years, it was always a challenge to try to get the banks to explain like why is this like Russian kid wants to open a business bank account here.
Wait,
So
so
I
even with the popularity of chat roulette, they didn't want to.
even with the popularity of chat roulette, because people in the bank, they don't always Google. I mean, for them it's just like bureaucrats. If you run into somebody who knows chat roulette, then it's easy. If somebody doesn't, then you get the full array of questioning.
So you couldn't add PayPal to chat roulette, or
No, I could, but I just saw all this bureaucracy and etc. It's a bit known story. There is even website called PayPalSucks.com where people are complaining that PayPal freeze their account, block their account. It never happened to me. Anyway, so it's all like this digital payments. It's just every aspect of it is so messed up. Again, as I saw it as a merchant, I think that's like the angle that public doesn't know, because public sees it from the perspective of the end user, and they maybe end users actually don't really see the whole value of crypto. But the merchant side, is paying a lot of fees. He has to deal with this middleman, and I mean nobody likes middlemen, So I think it's kind of natural instinct when you see crypto. You have a lot less dependencies, and I mean one of the reasons for being an entrepreneur in the first place is to be free, right? To not be a wage slave. And then if you made it, but then you're still kind of you're still accountable to a private company, or like a bunch of private companies. It's a bit like a shadow justice system, right? Because the companies get to decide, and it doesn't go through like proper due process.
But wait, so I don't know if I fully understand. So
Yes.
you were able to add PayPal to chat roulette,
Yes,
but
I was.
But you acted as if you couldn't or something.
I was, but I just know how difficult it is and how tense it is to accept payments, and they are always very touchy about it, and they ask a lot of questions, and you never know that if it will work tomorrow. That's kind of the thing.
And one other thing I wanted to ask you about was, I mean, you were just a teenager, so I don't know. I'm assuming maybe, you didn't come from a wealthy background, but after you created chat roulette, I imagine that your life changed and on that score. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was something. I mean, yes, definitely came from like a normal family, maybe on the upper end of normal, because my parents were working in university, and that's I mean makes a big difference, of course, in terms of how you grow up. But in terms of finances, well, I was feeling like a bit like rich kid. But I mean, what means rich in Russia is different than what means rich here. Like, I still had to do like all the other kids, like save up 2 years for a new phone, and just all these typical things, And I was living in the same, exactly the same, like typical like a commie block apartment. I mean, again, maybe my classmates had like a computer that was 10-year-old. I had 5-year-old computer, So it's like I had the latest video card. They had one before, or like things like that. But actually, I was the first one who had a computer in my class. I mean, and actually, for the
Okay.
first for the first like 5-6 years of my school, I was like one of the only kids who had a computer. And of course, that was also creating like traumatizing me socially, because just imagine the distance. I mean, it's like people who don't have a computer, they live completely different life. Just imagine that someone who is socializing every day out on the street, and you're like sitting like a dork. You grow into different directions cognitively.
So after you founded Chat Roulette, how did you get into crypto?
I saw the problem of middlemen, of just this impossible problems. You have a monopoly. The monopoly is not even efficient because because it's rich, right? So they don't need to optimize everything. Monopoly doesn't care about small players. All sorts of reasons. Monopoly, and I'm not even talking about like monopoly abusing its power, right? I'm just even on the efficiency level. You will expect from monopoly something like that. It would not work on the weekends, or it will work only 2 hours a day. This kind of like if you try to go to embassies work like 2 hours a day, once a week. Look, for instance, like App Store on the phone. It's a brilliant idea to have an App Store. Really, it's one place where all the apps are, and it has like all this moderation and reviews, what users want, and it's secure because apps don't get from outside. But again, in practice, it's a bit like dystopian what happens, because in the end, then a big private company starts to get all this power. They censor apps that compete with their own apps. They start to say, okay, if you take payments, you should give us a cut.
So then at some point you must have heard about Bitcoin or something. Is that?
Yeah, yes.
Was it like 2011 or 2012 or?
Don't remember, but I think it was maybe 13. Actually, I heard later than others.
Like when the price went to 1,000?
Probably, yes. And I bought after the first bubble collapsed.
And so did you become interested in it right away because of this experience that you had?
No, not really. Not really. Like Russians are skeptical of crypto because we had in 90s experienced a series of Ponzi schemes and just all these high yield investment schemes. And it's just in general, like, I mean, this was like a value that was taught in my family that you should do useful things for others, Don't think that you can buy some coin or a stock and get rich because, I mean, even mathematically that doesn't work, right? Because if everybody would do that, how would the world work, right? I mean, it's what Kant said. Only the things that are right are the ones that would be valid if it would become universal law. Like you cannot say as a strategy, buy coins to get rich because the strategy doesn't work for others, for everybody. There's a lot of it. But it's also interesting how in the professional, well, it's not professional, but in all these investment books that you get from Amazon, it was always saying the opposite. Like it would say, do not think you can beat the market because if everything is already priced in. So basically, be a good boy and just buy into a diversified fund, and you pay least fees, and you're diversified. And again, if you think you can beat the market, you are under some kind of cognitive bias because more than half of the drivers think they're better than other drivers. This is you read these books and you stop believing that you in yourself. That's kind of funny that in crypto, I think the people who made it big were either too ignorant of what the professional advice is, or because they had like the balls to read this and say, you know what, I disagree with this. I am actually smarter than others.
Right. I've written things saying that, yeah, you should just buy an index fund and et cetera, et cetera. But so then how long after you found out about Bitcoin, how long did it take you to decide to buy some?
I don't know. I was, it's slowly, I mean, again, first I had this reaction because it was like, it's unsustainable. You cannot have an asset that grows fundamentally as an activity. I mean, if I have a real job, why do I need to like gamble? And to be honest, this is something I think even today, that if you have your own business, that's where you should invest, and not crypto. Because if you have your own business, you have an edge. You have a private information, and you're not dependent on others. So you become the master of your own destiny. And when you touch the markets, you just cannot control how other people behave. So, but then it's actually more complicated, of course, because crypto becomes a bit like a hedge that everything else screws up, right? So it's more complicated. Anyhow, I slowly progressed in me, and I would say, one of the strong statements in crypto. Again, for me, I feel like I was always not taken seriously because I was always somehow not right. Either like I'm somehow kind of, as you wrote, that I'm not perceived as someone serious. And like there's like two types of people: the ones who have like a halo effect, and they get like the benefit of the doubt. I was the opposite, you know. And what I like about crypto is that crypto just doesn't care. It doesn't care how eloquent you speak, who you know, what kind of credentials you have. You have private key. For tech people, it's perfect because it's like it's ultimate meritocracy. But by the way, tech people hate crypto as well. And because I'm also reading tech forums. I mean, the ones who didn't buy, the no coiners, they are very salty. Anyhow, but again, tech people like meritocracy because tech people can't compete on looks and appearances.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you, but we'll talk about that after a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. Building the next big thing in crypto? CrossRiver has your back. Whether you are a crypto exchange, NFT marketplace, or wallet, CrossRiver's integrated API-based platform provides the payments solutions you need to grow. CrossRiver is powering the future of financial services. A CryptoFin Industry Award winner and an early partner for companies like Coinbase, CrossRiver's tech stack supports crypto partners and enables real-time money movement for consumers. Welcome to a new world of crypto-friendly banking. Request your fiat on-off-ramp solution now at crossriver.com/crypto. Finance is changing. Strategies are changing. Holding is changing. Beefy Finance, the multi-chain yield optimizer, allows you to maximize passive income while you sleep. Simply deposit your crypto into Beefy's secure, industry-leading auto-compounding vaults to put your funds to work. Each one of Beefy's 740 vaults automatically reinvests the interest gained on your crypto deposits, earning you more while saving you time and fees. Beefy's strategies create bank-busting APYs with 0% deposit fees at the click of a button. Join $1.4 billion of investments and understand why so many users trust Beefy with their financial independence. Visit beefy.finance and take control of your financial future. Join over 10 million people using Crypto.com, the easiest place to buy, earn, and spend over 150 cryptocurrencies. New users enjoy zero credit card fees on crypto purchases in their first 30 days. With Crypto.com Earn, you can get industry-leading interest rates of up to 8.5% on over 40 coins, including Bitcoin, and earn up to 14% on stablecoins. With the Crypto.com Visa card, you can spend your crypto anywhere. Enjoy up to 8% cash back instantly, plus 100% rebates for your Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime subscriptions, and 0 annual fees. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA. Link in the description. Back to my conversation with Andre. So the reason why I disagree with you, and I know you haven't read my whole book, but you've read, the parts that involve you. You are a whale in crypto. And as people will read about in my book, or maybe they've already read it, whales have a lot of influence. So I wonder, do you think that takes away from crypto's claim to be a democratizing force in finance?
There is the theory and there is a practice,
Right. But you were saying that it's the ultimate meritocracy, but based on the events that actually happened, I disagree.
I was sold on the vision. Like on the theory of it, Of course, there is the pure mathematical model and there is reality.
And the reality is that it's not a pure meritocracy. This is based on the events that I discovered in my book.
It's oligarchy.
Yeah. Now you're saying different from what you said before.
I would say the truth is always in the middle, right? So it's or maybe it's not, which is also a fallacy. But I would say again, this was the vision that I was sold into. I bought into, and I think that's the vision many other people are buying. But of course, the more time you spend in it, the more you understand how things are more difficult than you originally perceive them.
To me, it looks like exchanges treat whales like you very well. I mean, do you think that everyday users of exchanges get the kind of treatment that you get?
It's complicated. Like I say, it's on a case-to-case basis. I think in general, crypto isn't like one thing. It's many different ideas which are organized. I guess decentralization is one thing, but for instance, BitTorrent was also decentralized. Crypto as in that the cryptography is used. Okay, that's also exists. But then you also always had this PGP. You had way before PGP Corporation. Probably the inventor of Bitcoin was employee number 2. Hal Finney. Yeah, because PGP Corporation, it's used in every. Again, this was a thing before crypto. I think every browser has this like support for PGP, and it's like a de facto standard for communicating encrypted messages over internet with public key crypto. But in particular PGP, and Hal Finney was employee number 2. So I take that pretty seriously. And so anyways, so you have these CryptoPunks. So you have decentralization, you have CryptoPunks, and crypto isn't about blockchain. Crypto is about usage of cryptography.
Right. Cypherpunks. CryptoPunks, the NFTs are different from cypherpunks.
Yeah, cypherpunks, yes. Again, and then of course you have this like things like proof of work. And proof of work was also independent strand because originally designed to combat the problem of spam.
Yeah. It's from the 90s, 1993. Yeah.
I guess the ledger is the one is the breakthrough, right? The blockchain, the one that united it all. So I would say, yeah, probably blockchain is the big concept, but also blockchain can mean many different things. They also say that that technology is neutral, right? That it depends how you use it.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. That with this, I don't know. I definitely think after writing my book, I have a much greater awareness of just how much influence whales have.
That's only one factor out of many. The whales. I would say it also depends what is your criteria of success. What is the goal? This is all very complicated. Like you have an artifact, which is this invention, but you have to separate what is being promised and who is promising what. Because that's also what people say. People ask me, well, isn't it a bubble? Isn't it like a Ponzi scheme? I'm saying, no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. It's a bubble. Because a Ponzi scheme, you are promised something. In crypto, you are promised nothing. So, like nobody's promising you anything in crypto, So I also have to separate that. Like it's just a blockchain. It's what you make of it,
Yeah, but like I said, I do think if you have a lot of coins, you get treated differently.
Yeah. But I think it's a bit like constitutional monarchy. So you are treated differently, but there is still some framework around so that like the average Joe has a chance.
I'm sorry, you called it constitutional anarchy?
Constitutional monarchy. But constitutional anarchy is also funny, but constitutional monarchy, which is like you have essentially a person who has a lot of power, but there is still some constitution that puts some boundaries on this power and also gives an average person some kind of chance.
Okay. Yeah, oligarchy, I guess, because there's multiple power players, not a single one.
Again, I say it's about boundaries, that you have these people who have tremendous amount of power, but still an average Joe still has a chance. He can still buy his shitcoin and he has a chance to make it big. In the real world, we don't have that because the investor protection. Yeah.
Okay, I do agree on some level with what you said. So we've just talked a little bit about Bitcoin, but what's your take on Ethereum? What do you think of it and how did you hear about it and get interested?
Well, I fell in love. I moved to Zug. Then after I moved to Zug.
And why Zug?
It's really the most logical choice.
For tax reasons? To minimize your taxes?
in Europe, you don't live in Europe, and it's not from outside obvious, but Europe is very socialist and it has extremely high taxation rate. I mean, so most of the countries, when you're in the upper tax bracket, there is minimum 50% of income tax that you have to pay. So you look at Scandinavia, beautiful countries, but if you move here, you will pay 60% of your income will go to the budget, to the state.
Well, I mean, that's how they make the countries beautiful. You pay high taxes and then you get the beautiful country.
Yes, so in whole Europe, there is only limited countries which you would move to if you want to pay a reasonable amount of tax. Really very few. It's like Monaco, Liechtenstein, Andorra. Maybe you can work out some non-domicile agreement in UK, but it's really like UK, Switzerland. Again, you just have really few countries, and even within these countries, it is only very few places you can move to. Because, for instance, in Switzerland, you also have different countries, different taxes depending on the canton. Zurich, for instance, it has a 39% income tax. Zug has 22. So if you just run this algorithm, find the cheapest taxes, you just arrive to Zug.
Okay. So you moved there in 2016, I believe. And then afterward, you found out about Ethereum. How did you hear about it and what were your thoughts about it?
I heard about it. I think from Wikipedia. I searched Zug, and by the time they already moved out of Zug, I mean obviously it was no brainer. It was everything that Bitcoin had, but better, because you can. I felt actually I was mistakenly thinking that on Ethereum you could do like a proper decentralized apps, like decentralized websites, like Chatroulette. I was thinking that Bitcoin is decentralized money sending, and Ethereum is like decentralized platform for any apps. So you could like make like a Reddit on it or something. And I invested based on that idea, but actually it's not true. And we all know, it's the practical limitations, the fees, the throughput. Well, the fact that it's so open is good, but also creates some challenges to make an app like Chatroulette. Anyhow, I was thinking this is like a decentralized cloud. You put your app and nobody can stop it. It was in that direction, but it was a subset of features, but actually quite like crucial features. What we see now, we have these ideas coming, but they all come as a separate projects. Probably the future of blockchains, it's kind of silly, but it's like where you could put like images and stuff, not just the code for the financial transactions. And of course, like the experienced people will disagree with me because they will say, well, you have IPFS for it. And I'm not going to get into that.
One thing I do describe in the book, your involvement in the DAO. And I've seen people talking about it on Twitter. And obviously we, promised we wouldn't divulge any of that. So people who haven't read the book won't have it spoiled for them. But I was curious, you did not reveal your role in that for many years. So then why did you decide to talk to me and reveal that in the book?
Because you asked. Because nobody asked. Nobody asked.
Really? There were no other journalists that ever asked you?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know if you remember that
Because I didn't have the contact.
Well, but do you remember that I initially was contacting you on Signal?
Yes.
But I can't remember how long I did that. That was for months, and you kind of just were being cagey. So it felt like you were on the fence.
Well, that is also true. But I mean, it's like it was an intuitive decision. I didn't want to push it, because you were very mild in your initial request. And the second time around, you were more insistent and you had more details. Because initially it was like cold call, cold mail. So, and then after that, you already were like, spoke to these people and that people. And I felt that it would be a shame if you only have bits of the story, because, at the end of the day, I wanted to help you, I guess. Why not? And it's all interesting, from historiography perspective. I mean, it's all like life is a case study, you know. There are the facts, but then there is the analysis of the facts, and there is the experience. So I like to talk about, I like to reflect on a meta level about things, because like otherwise, what's the point of life? You know, if you do, like if you just like solve problems one by one, but you don't stop and think back, that's kind of boring. So anyhow,
No, I think what you did is great because you're right. I personally think that the historical record is important. So for people just to know what are the basic facts, but then at the end we also have your reflection about it. And that was interesting to me to see your arc as a person, even with the kind of small role that you had in the book. You've changed by the end, which is fascinating. People can read about it, but I definitely think it's one of the most interesting storylines in the book. And I really have to thank you for sharing it, because I just feel that, the understanding of what happened at that time would not be complete without that story. And I love it that you also reflected on why you did those things, and it showed, how much you had changed as a person in that time.
how do I carefully describe it without giving the spoilers?
Well, I think what you said about how you had been kind of a troll and immature, and then later
You know, I would say there are layers to this. I mean, that's like one dimension that I thought it was funny. All these games with it was funny to see and play in all these games around this DAO, white hat, black hat, and I feel like I don't regret that. You know, I feel it was like living in a movie. You know, I mean, I do see some other people are a bit more tense and took it more seriously than I did. I mean, particularly like white hat group, because they felt the pressure of all these funds on their shoulders. But it's also like a mindset, you know, because that's one view. But another view, like holy shit, like we are now playing with millions, and we are now like on the forefront of innovations. And yesterday we were nobody, and now we are like rescuing the community. I mean, holy shit, that's amazing. I mean, what else can you ask for? Like that's highlight of your life in a way, you know. But I think there is different mentalities, because as you can tell, I'm more treating it in a way that I treat more like life as a game. I'm more like in an abstract way, and some other people, they get really serious about things, you know.
Yeah, but also you also said that some of it for you was an intellectual exercise, which I also think is a good point and really interesting.
Academic,
Yeah.
yes. And I would just say, to give more nuance, I don't look. I think if we said A, we should just say B, especially to the readers that watch this after reading the book, right? Because let me just describe it in my own words.
Wait, so are you going to spoil? Because if you are, then we should tell people that if they haven't read the book, then maybe they want to do that before they finish.
I just find my commentary to be a bit out of context. If it's like, let me try to give the commentary to people who read the book without giving the spoilers. Okay, let's continue that. Again, I think that there is like basically there is a lot of layers here. For instance, one aspect of it. Let me just talk about like DAO. Again, as a spoiler, I was not the hacker, right? So did not hack anybody. But for instance, I don't think that hacker is a bad person.
Yeah. Did you read my article about who I?
Yes. Well, yes. Okay. Well, whether he's a good or bad person is a separate topic. I don't know him personally. I noticed that his project went from like billion to 7 million. So probably that's maybe even worse than what he has done in DAO. So that's maybe like
I think it was more like 535 million to yeah.
But imagine how many people bought into it. So like, you know, the karma came back there now through you. So it's not the even initial hack, it's the ICO. I find even more concerning. But the initial hack, I actually think, was brilliant. I believe that the whole idea of smart contracts is that we don't want to use private company because we don't trust humans. So we want to use algorithms because they're better than humans. And then someone finds the flaw in this algorithm, and people lose the money.
Yeah.
But if people didn't want to do that, they should have just went to the, I don't know, Wells Fargo. I mean, I just fundamentally don't agree to with people that would think that hacking smart contracts is in any way unethical. I mean,
Wow.
it's like, it's a strong word. It's maybe unethical. Yes, it's unethical. But it's not like illegal. It shouldn't be illegal. Like if you hack a smart contract, I would say don't take 100%. Take 10%.
Okay, yeah. I mean, well, in this case, they took 31%.
Yes, and that was maybe a bit more than they should have. If they would have taken 10 or 20, there would have been no hard fork.
But wait, because like in crypto all the time, there are researchers who find flaws. And instead of taking the money, what they do is they fork the code to, a safer version and then rescue the money. And so, but you think that they should instead just hack it and only take 10%? Is that what you're saying?
Well, look, everybody has different reasons for doing things, like you have to separate as well that if people perceive that there is criminal liability and they want to sleep well at night, that's one aspect. They just want to have simple life. And I mean, I can say, if I were to find an exploit, I would definitely today not exploit it. I would not.
So you would tell the developers and try to fork it to something. Okay, but you just said that you would, or that you think it's okay if people take 10%.
It's more complicated. Like for me personally, I want to be like in harmony with society, with government, because I want to sleep well at night. I don't want to have anything to hide. I don't want to, I want to be free.
You want to pay your low taxes.
Yes, like now, I'm free. So I want freedom, yeah. And because I'm already rich, why should I have more problems, But again, for someone else, the calculus might be different. But I would still separate it from on the personal level. Honestly, even if I lose money, I would probably also seek legal recourse because I can, because government is also a system,
right? Which people will read. You definitely seem to like doing that. I know this maybe is going to veer off the topic a little bit, but I am curious because right now you are in Russia and it has this conflict with Ukraine, and we've seen crypto being used in this historic way in this conflict. And well, I don't know. I mean, you texted me. I don't know if I can say this, that you're trying to leave Russia. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yes, I think it's almost unethical to not talk about it today because DAO is something happening a lot more important than DAO in the short term. It's a mass murder, Now it's like really, there is darkness, there is mass murder, and there is no way back. When the first 100 people are killed, there is no way back. Yes, it's basically it's shocking. Personally, I'm blessed to not be affected. So I cannot fully emphasize with the people that maybe have some body injury or have their relatives. Health is being alive, and healthy is the biggest wealth you can have, right? So and now these people are at risk.
But as you're watching crypto being used here in this way, what are your thoughts?
Well, fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, crowdfunded war. Well, the water finds a way, right? So innovations, they trickle down whenever they're needed. I would say probably Russia should, if Ukraine added this donation wallet, Russia can do the same. And I would not be surprised if some people donate to Russia as well. And then we will have two sides crowdfunding war from both sides.
Yeah, I'm surprised Russia hasn't. I mean, I don't think they would get much in donations. Maybe that's why they haven't. I did want to ask you, obviously you have been very engaged in crypto, even if people didn't know it until now. Do you have any plans to launch anything in crypto or do anything entrepreneurial in it?
Can I just finish to the crypto topic
Sure.
with the war? Because I think the initial idea was to talk about the crypto aspect of it. Because now we have sanctions. I think that's an interesting topic, more like less controversial. Where Russia is being sanctioned now, and crypto de facto today becomes, I mean, this is like a no-brainer, but I have employees in Russia, and I was just told by the bank that the bank cannot send any further transfers to Russia. So it
Oh.
means I cannot pay my employees, and seems like the only way is to use crypto. So at least on my personal level, it's happening from every direction. Russia is blocking outside transfers to preserve the foreign capital inside the country. So if you want to make transfers into Russia or outside of Russia, crypto already becomes probably, if not already, it will become one of the only options. So I could expect a demand for crypto to go up from Russia, from Ukraine. And
Yeah.
already Ukrainians and Russians have 11, 12%. I read somewhere a study that 10% of Russians have crypto, and same in Ukraine. And again, especially now with all this political instability, there is a strong case for crypto. It's like gold went up 6% in the last month, and gold is a very big market, so 6% is a lot. Again, for sanctions, for the reasons of sanctions, for the reason of political instability, there is a strong case for crypto, even stronger than the case during the COVID. Because in COVID, people were also fearing the end of the world. So this is a similar situation now.
So does this inspire you to try to launch anything in crypto?
There are some people who think that decentralizing chatroulette could be interesting. I think that chatroulette can be decentralized because just this model of peer-to-peer connections essentially already is decentralized. So it's not that much work, but it's more complicated, because for chatroulette, the question is like, why do people need decentralized chatroulette? What problem are we solving? So it's because, look, do you want to meet people or do you want to meet people in decentralized way? So it's there is more complicated case for why to do that, because when you decentralize a project, you don't just offer decentralization to your end users. You're also creating a DAO, and in DAO, you can let your users own a piece of the platform. You can also source talent, and you can compensate the talent. And as I was told, there are many people today that would actually not like to work for a traditional company anymore, and they would prefer to work for a DAO. So if you want to tap into this kind of pool, into this kind of talent pool, it seems you might consider decentralizing your project just for that. But it's a big decision because chatroulette, unlike some other projects, already exists and already has real users. And I don't need to make like a white paper and push some shitcoin. Actually, for me, I'm thinking in terms of what value it brings to the end user, and it's kind of decentralization is you have to pay tax for it because look at China. China is very centralized, and that's why it has some efficiencies which democratic countries don't, because for a decision to be taken in a democratic country, it has to go through multiple layers of approval. If you look at how projects are built, there is actually a lot of centralization built in to them in the backdoor. Like the DeFi projects like Compound Finance, the operator has a backdoor that to make a change inside.
Oh, even now?
Now I don't know, but it used to have, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't, because if you remove a backdoor, it's very, very dangerous. It's you want to have a backdoor. What we learned from DAO is that there's always an illusion that if things work today, that they will work tomorrow. But it's amazing when you have a complicated system that there always comes up edge cases which you could not have thought up in advance.
Right.
And actually, there is a theory behind it, right? It's called halting theory, that there is certain properties of the program which you cannot predict upfront without executing the program because of the loops. So if you don't have loops, just like one direction, you can kind of like do static analysis. You can see all the states that can happen. during the execution of the program. But if you have loops, it becomes what mathematicians call a weak formed problem, because you cannot like compute that if you have loops.
Okay.
Because if you don't know if the loop was taken or not. Long story short, you need a backdoor, and I think also on the government level, you need a backdoor that you can have a bureaucracy, but you need also a backdoor where like an individual can intervene if he can see something going wrong. And that's why we have in Europe, we have a constitutional monarchy where monarchs have a veto power. Like they don't have any other powers except the veto power. So that is what like backdoor is. I would suggest to do the same for projects like, look, I think the goal is not complete decentralization from the day one. You know, you leave humans.
Yeah.
You know, like it's called Mechanical Turk.
Right.
Where you put humans in kind of certain stages. You put humans, but you put like a boundary around them. So you can say, okay, here we need a human confirmation, and here is like the public key of this person who should confirm. And if we're not happy with this person, we should vote and put someone else's private key, private public key. Anyway, sorry, I'm going too technical.
But I do some of the projects that I think they've started that way, but then obviously because of in the US, you know, the SEC would come after you if you're too centralized. So I think over time they try to shift away from that.
But they're centralized, but they're hiding it.
Or they decentralize over time. They start decentralized and then they shift.
And I mean, like, look, the thing is, there is lots of interesting problems around DAOs that people don't understand upfront. For instance, one of the first learnings was that DAO is not just to ask all the people for the vote, and then 51% decides what is right. Vitalik talks about that. But even in real world, if you would run the companies like this, what would happen is that 51% of the shareholders would say, look, these 49% of the shareholders didn't attend this meeting, we are here. So let's strike them off. In terms of the majority is correct, right? Majority is right, but is it fair? No. And that is why in the traditional corporate law, we have minority protection. And then another problem is insider trading. You also, in traditional world, you cannot announce something that you cannot sell your shares, and then say, okay, you know what, we have some big problems. Then the price dumps and you say, oh, you know what, never mind. And you buy them back cheap because there are insider trading law. In DAO, there are no protections. So there is lots of things like this. And I would say it's layers of security and checks and balances and redundancies. Because look, for instance, Russia is being attacked. There is not a democracy. But what we forget is that in West, democracies were being evolved for hundreds of years, for centuries. Because essentially what every government experiences every year is a kind of form of a DAO attack. Because someone finds an edge case in all these regulations and exploits it. And next year, they make like an ad hoc patch. And that's why we have like 100 books of tax code, which is another problem.
It has been so great talking to you. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for talking to me for my book. I'm very interested, for more people to read the book and hear their opinions on what happened. I think I will be doing some book clubs. So maybe what we can do is have you back for one of the book clubs, and then you can talk to people who've read the whole thing. We can talk freely, no worry about spoilers. And so then that will be, then we can get into the details. But thank you so much for coming on Unchained.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us today. To learn more about Andre and my book, The Cryptopians, Idealism, Greed, Lies, and the Making of the First Big Cryptocurrency Craze, check out the show notes for this episode. Unchained is produced by me, Laura Shin, with help from Anthony Yoon, Daniel Nuss, Mark Murdoch, Shashank, and CLK Transcription. Thanks for listening.